I'm Chef Sherry Ronning, and I'm here to show you how to make cookies on your Blackstone Griddle. It's very easy to make cookies on your Blackstone Griddle. I'm going to give you a few tips on what you need to do. A few things that you will need: preheated griddle. I have it set on low. You want to make sure that your griddle is on low, that it's not too hot, or otherwise the cookies will burn very quickly. You want to make sure you do not have any griddle guards or foil around your griddle, because that will trap the heat and make the griddle hotter, which is something that you don't want when you're baking. Things that you'll want when you are trying to bake cookies on the Blackstone Griddle: you're going to want a good baking sheet. You're going to want parchment paper. You can do different forms. I have it in a sheet that I get from Members Mark Sam's Club that I love. You can buy the sheets of parchment paper. Any kind of parchment paper will work. You're going to want your cookie dough. For today, I'm just going to use the Toll House prepackaged 24 cookies in pre-made up dough. You can use your own cookie dough. I've done this all sorts, I've tested all of my different cookies, the snickerdoodles, the homemade chocolate chip cookies, pumpkin snickerdoodles. I've tested quite a few of them, so all of them works. Once you get the technique down of baking on the griddle, it'll be easy to do. So for this demonstration, I'm just using the prepackaged cookies. You're going to want the oven mitts, because your pan will be very hot. The Blackstone Griddle has been preheated. Let's check it. It's on low. I have it preheated on the lowest setting that it'll go. So right now it's saying like 400 degrees, close to 400 degrees, which is a little bit warm. It's always hotter on this side for whatever reason. My griddle is hotter on this side than it is on this side. So I'm going to bake on this side of the griddle, on the left side. So you just take a sheet of parchment paper. All right. And you're going to put it carefully over top of the whole griddle. The reason you're doing this step here is because the griddle, when you're baking on it, I found that it does smoke. I found that if I bake the cookies directly on the griddle, they don't turn out good. I've tried the baking stone, and give or take, sometimes the baking stone will do good, sometimes it won't. I think it depends on the temperature outside. If I'm baking them when it's a little bit cooler outside, the stone has a tendency to work, but if it's warmer summer weather, or warmer where you're at, the stone probably isn't going to work. So I've tested quite a bit, and this is what I found works. So you lay the sheet of parchment paper down, and this is going to stop the smoking of you've seasoned the griddle, you got the oil on it, the griddle is hot, and it's going to stop the smoke from coming up around your baking. So you're going to take the baking sheet, and instead of going this way, depending on the newer griddles, have the lid that you can put over top of, close down the lid, the hinged ones. I have an older griddle which it doesn't have the nice big lid to go over top. So I'm actually going to use a dome lid, a large one, to go over top. So if I use the dome lid with the baking sheet this way, the dome lid doesn't fit very well. So I'm going to flip my cookie sheet over and bake on the back side. And if you don't want to bake directly your cookies with the baking sheet on the griddle. If you're going to bake it this way, you want to put wire rack underneath to lift it up just a little bit, or you want to do strips of foil. I've done crumpled strips of foil and put like X's underneath there. You can do that also just to lift it up a little bit off the griddle. So for this instance, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to set it down on the baking on the parchment paper so that it's covered. So you're going to get the heat coming up underneath the baking sheet, and then this is going to get hot, but it's not going to have direct heat from the griddle. You're going to just have the residual heat. So I'm going to open the cookie dough. So I'm just going to take my cookie dough. It's already in the square pieces. So I'm just going to take them, actually. So then I'm going to take parchment paper and I'm going to put on top of this cookie sheet. This has a tendency to help. I usually cook with parchment paper underneath of my cookies. It's just easier to clean up, and the cookies won't stick to the paper like they would the baking sheet. So I'm just going to do like I normally would, 12 cookies on the sheet. So you're just going to space them out. You want a good spacing. You don't want them too close, or otherwise they're going to bake together, and you don't want that to happen. So you want just the round. Try to keep them in the round shape. Try to keep them as uniform as possible so that they bake evenly. And I have this cookie that's got a little bit more dough on it that I want. So I'm going to put it, one of my first ones here don't have as much dough. So I'm just going to take that and go like that. So you want them evenly spaced out like that. I'm going to wipe my fingers. And then you want to take the dome lid. I keep mine underneath the griddle. So I have the rectangle shaped dome lid. You can either use, if you have the newer style, the lid that goes over top, you can do that. The hinge lids, you can use that if you would like. I don't have that, so I'm just using this. So this goes perfectly over top, and it does hang off a little bit more on the edges, so that's what the parchment paper is there for, to stop the smoking of the cookies. We don't want the cookies to have the smoke flavor from the griddle, and so that will help this. So we're just going to leave that on there for several minutes. We're not going to pull it off and on check it. We're just going to, every griddle is going to be different as far as baking time. So one of the key things that I found as a baker, I've been baking professionally for over 20 years. I have my own licensed bakery in my home that I bake professional wedding cakes and sheet cakes and that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of baking over the years. One thing that I found once when I'm baking is your nose is going to tell you when your food is done. So the first thing, you're going to let it cook, and then when you start smelling the cookies, then you know it's close to being done. Not necessarily all the way done, but it's close to, the cookies will be close to being done. So we're just going to let this cook. It's going to take probably at least 10 minutes, but with the griddle temperature, everything is going to vary. So we're going to check it at 10 minutes, and we will be right back. So the cookies have been baking for about 10 minutes now, so I'm just going to check them. So when I check them, I am going to lift the dome lid up, but I'm going to put it on this side. I'm not going to flip it and let the heat escape out of the dome lid. This is your oven that you're creating to bake your cookies in. So you don't want to let the heat escape when you like peek it, like opening the oven door and peeking at it. You just want to peek really quick and shut it so that the heat stays in. So we're just going to lift it up and slide it over just to check our cookies to see how they're doing after 10 minutes. Just like that. They're starting to get golden brown on the bottom. I can just starting to smell them, not very strong, so they still look doughy. They're puffed up really good. So we're just going to let them cook just a few minutes longer. So I'm going to carefully put the dome lid back over top of it. The heat is still inside the lid, and I'm going to set the timer for 2 more minutes. So my timer went off. The cookies have now been baking for about 12 minutes. So we're just going to double check them just to see how they're looking. Remember, we're just bringing the lid up and setting it flat on the griddle so it holds the heat. Bringing it over. Look at that. They look pretty good. This one is not quite. So I think I'm just going to keep cooking them for just a little bit longer. We're going to go another 2 minutes with it. All right, that's 14 minutes. My timer's gone off. Another 2 minutes have gone by. So I'm thinking that they're probably going to be done. So let's check them. I can smell them. They smell really good. Yep, they're looking pretty good. I believe that they're done. So this is where the gray area where it comes in. Is it done? Is it not done? I found that I'm going to remove these from the griddle, and I'm going to leave them on the pan, and they'll cook just a little bit longer. They're nice and golden brown on the bottom. They don't look like they're burnt or anything. They're just the good golden brown, and they're going to be soft and chewy on the inside. So we're going to remove them. So for this demonstration, I cooked these for 14 minutes. So, but every time you bake, they're going to be as with when you bake in an oven, cooking times are going to vary. So you need to make sure to use your nose to smell them. I can smell them, and they smell delicious, and they look beautiful. They look like they're done. So I'm going to use my hot pads. I'm going to use the spatula that I have here just to lift it up. We're going to grab it and carefully, and then I'm just going to remove this and set this aside, and I'm just going to leave it on the pan and let it cool. So you can, if you decide you want to remove it, you can. I'm just going to let it finish baking and just leave it just like this. So now the cookies have rested for a few minutes, and look how perfect they are. They're perfectly cooked. They're nice and golden brown on the bottom. You can go either a little bit more or a little bit less if you like your cookies a little bit lighter. That's kind of up to you, personal preference. But I think they turned out beautiful. They are absolutely gorgeous cookies that I made within a matter of just a few minutes. Warm cookies right out of the oven, or in this case, right off the Blackstone Griddle, are so delicious, and you will love them. So give them a try. If you like this cookie recipe, please subscribe to my page, like this recipe, get the link to this recipe in the description box and also the comment box. I will put it there for you to click on to go to my website. My website is FromMichiganToTheTable.com. I have all kinds of Blackstone Griddle recipes, as well as smoker recipes or Midwestern cuisine recipes. I have a wild game recipes also, so go check out my website and see what you can find. Thanks.